Hey guys, I missed you guys last week, but I'm excited to talk today. I want to talk about the 12-volt battery problem I have in my EV6. We want to talk about how to tow a dead EV because I think that's huge. But really, I think the number one thing I want to talk about is I missed the podcast where we made fun of Mike's bulldog, and then him hitting multiple things. It wasn't just a pole. He also had a Tesla before this. That he also ran into someone with. I think Mike has some like self-driving issues, or maybe he should use self-drive more. Like, I don't know. I mean, I can't believe I missed the opportunity to rip on Mike on a podcast.
Welcome to Plug In for More, brought to you by EVUniverse.com. EV Universe is your one-stop shop for all things related to the electric vehicle. Here on this podcast, our goal is to educate, inspire, and hopefully make your transition into the electric vehicle marketplace a lot less intimidating. And now, here are your hosts, Mike, Tom, and Bryant.
Yeah, here we are. I mean, I guess first off, what you do is you take your car out of old man mode that you typically keep your car in. But yeah,
I
okay, so
mean,
I'll break it all down for you, Brian, and and for everyone out there. Yeah. So the history behind this, and for the listeners that listened early on in the podcast, there was an incident about 2.5 or so years ago. Maybe not that long. Maybe it's a year and a half now. Something a while ago. I like to put it out there. Many miles of driving ago. I rear-ended somebody at a traffic light. They had got halfway through the intersection, then stopped. I had looked left, went right. Anyways, so that was a Tesla P85D that I rear-ended the lady with. Um, and then that one got fixed, yada yada yada. Now I was at a parking deck with my family, and we just left a restaurant, and there's a big concrete pillar, and the way I parked was far away from everybody, so of course I keep the Rivian looking nice and pretty, and that turned out exactly how I intended by reversing, and it was just in between the sensors, and I fully cranked the wheel and just smacked the door. Um, and so that was I think the insurance right now is looking at like a $6,700 claim on that. Originally supposed to be higher, but it looks like it's actually gonna be less. So a lot of that was actually due to the rearview mirror need to be
hmm,
replaced, and then all the sensors having to be recalibrated. And because it's a Rivian and there's not too many repair centers, they had to flatbed it about an hour and a half away, get it fixed there, and then bring it back to the other body shop. So there's a lot of costs that really I don't think are normally necessary, like the flatbed a
sure.
truck because of a rear view mirror or a side mirror. But anyways,
Well,
so thanks, Bryant, for all
but
this.
in your defense, I won't often come here, but this pillar, it probably wasn't painted like bright yellow. It's probably just like a gray concrete, hard to see in the dark, right?
Yeah, I mean it's really well lit area that it was white and right next to the truck that I just previously walked past, and had to make sure I didn't hit my the passenger door when putting my child into the rear seat. So I've got no excuses at all whatsoever.
Listener two, I think this is a pattern with Mike as well. When he crashes his car, he gets a new car. He just doesn't get it fixed. He gets a new car.
Eh, guess you're calling a spade a spade. Yeah, so I do have a Cybertruck that's finally like maybe coming in any day now. So let's talk about that. Where I'm at. So Cybertruck originally put my reservation in 4 years ago on opening night. Accidentally got three because that's things are going smooth. Um, and then I configured about 65 days ago. So got my invitation to actually configure the vehicle. Did that. Got the all-wheel drive version. And then I've been waiting for the VIN. And I called the local Tesla store. They have not delivered any yet. So it looks like I'll probably be one of the first in my area to get one. Um, I'm bugging them more than I probably should, but they've been very kind and understanding. And yeah, so in the meantime, I am driving a Kia EV6, Bryant, which should make you very, very happy. It's a great car. Doesn't have as much storage as a truck, but it's doing well.
I am happy you're driving EV6. I miss mine. And but before we get into that though, Mike, tell me about the decision you're gonna have here though. Cybertruck or F-150 Platinum Lightning?
Yeah, so okay. So here's what's running through my mind. So we have the Rivian is a great truck. I love it. It's the four motor, it's 835 horsepower. The range is over I mean I think it's going much better than what it typically is rated for. I mean, I'm seeing 360 miles typically on a charge. I mean, it's doing really well. That's because I'm not doing 85 on the highway. It's really a mixed use vehicle for me. The problem that I have with it is there's not as much room in the cab is what I need. So I've got two kids, I've got two dogs. Um, we throw a bunch of stuff in the bed all the time. The frunk is a good size. The gear tunnel is great, but it's just not quite big enough. Um, so looking at the Cybertruck versus the F-150 Lightning, obviously the cab in the F-150 Lightning is the biggest of the three. Cybertruck is kind of a middle ground there, but the Cybertruck's 100 grand. I mean, it's really expensive. The F-150 Lightning right now, especially even a Platinum or a Lariat, I mean, those are significant discounts. You can get a brand new Platinum off the lot for 71, 72 right now that has massaging seats and all the different tow packages. I mean, the MSRP on those is close to 95,000, 100,000 themselves. So, do I save myself $30,000? Not have the cool new thing on the road? Yeah. So it's an ego thing at this point.
And we know how much you like your Flash, so I have a feeling it
Mhm.
might be worth $30,000.
Yeah, of course, to make my ego feel better. Yep.
I mean, also listener, I just want to paint a picture here of Mike has a reputation in the Raleigh community of being that cool EV guy, and I think we should do a listener poll. Which is cooler, an F-150 Lightning, which I think is cool, or a Cybertruck? Like Mike he has to keep up his appearances in this community.
All right.
But the price thing is really something to consider. And like I'm looking at the Ford, what they're doing with their prices, and obviously the Lightning's coming down, the Mach E is coming down, which I'm a little bitter about the Mach E pricing because right now you can go get the same exact Mach E that I bought a year ago for $43,000. It looks like, which I was at about 50,000. I paid for mine, so that's roughly 8 grand difference for the same price that I got my Mach-E all-wheel drive Select. I could go get a brand new GT version of that same car right now.
Yep.
It's disheartening.
Yeah, I
It
know.
is. I mean, that's what same thing happened with my the Model Ys too. I mean, I bought it at the top, and then Elon dropped the price substantially, like
Yeah.
15 grand overnight, basically, and that hurt. That stung. So I feel like that's a trickle down effect that we're seeing right now across the board for all these different manufacturers, especially Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Mike, I don't want to rip on you too much. I just missed you. I hope you feel the love. Hope you feel the
Uh,
love.
I felt like you were giving me a hug as you were ripping me apart there. That was like, oh, I didn't see you for a while there, buddy. Thanks for the compliments.
You're welcome.
Well, but
Tom, and really quick, any updates on your Tesla adapter for your Mach-E? I know Ford's one of the first ones. Have you heard anything about this?
I have seen leaked prototype images floating across the internet, but I have heard nothing official from Ford. So I don't think there's anything out there yet that's going to be definitive on what we're going to see or when we're going to get it. But between leaked images of the adapter and some software updates being pushed out to select vehicles, that's the most that I've seen so far.
Hmm, interesting. When you get it, I can't wait to try it. And I want to try it maybe on my EV6, but I don't think it will work. I think to your point, it has to be a software and a hardware like
Mhm.
adapter. I don't think you can just
Yeah.
use an adapter.
You're listening to the Plug In for More podcast. If you're looking for information on electric vehicles components, or information on how to reduce your carbon footprint, look no further than evuniverse.com. evuniverse.com is your one-stop shop for all things related to electric vehicle.
So, Bryant, what I want to know is what happened over the last few days. We received some text messages from you frantically upset about your car not working. It was stalled or dead on the side of the road. You were out of town. Your wife very upset with you for many different things, but in particular, this car not working. So, Kia EV6 dead on the side of the road. What happened?
Yeah, it's a good one. So My wife might want to join us for this episode. We'll see. She has strong opinions. I left her at the EV6 and I went away on a work trip. I happened to be in to Florida, and I get a video from her Sunday after I land. Of luckily it was at her sister's house, but it was the dreaded 12-volt battery warning. It's very common for some reason right now with EV6s and other EVs too. The car is a 2022. It has 31,000 miles on it, and all the forums were warning like right around this time is when your battery's gonna die. So I was hoping I would be the only one that didn't have this issue, but yeah, she sent me the video and asked what to do, and really you can't do much when the 12 volt dies like this. There was no warning. The 12 volt was just dead, and before we tell more of the story, I always when I bring this up, the number one question I always get is like, why does your EV, which has a massive battery, a 90 kilowatt plus battery, why does it have a 12-volt battery? So Tom, my question for you is, why does an EV have this stupid 12-volt little battery when it has this massive, 90 plus kilowatt battery that actually drives the car? Like, why do EVs have these stupid little 12-volt batteries?
I think there's a couple different reasons we could point out, but the biggest part of it is that your main battery for your EV is harnessing so much power. It's a ridiculous amount of power to make it go down the road. That much power isn't necessary to power your radio, to power your ECU, and all these other little smaller uh, electronics within your vehicle, which traditionally have been operated by 12-volt battery systems. So you've got this traditional system, which is kind of like a legacy idea where all the manufacturers in and around the automotive industry know how to make parts and components that function on a 12-volt system. And frankly, I don't think we want 800 volts coming through your radio. I mean, that's not safe for anybody. So that's the big reason why is an adaptability to how it's always been done. And also the amount of power that's required to push that car down the road needs an enormous like jolt of lightning to make it happen.
That makes sense. And in your kind of in your past life when you were, first responder, police officer, I know, 10 years ago when EVs first came out, people were really worried about like the jaws of life and cutting through cables and stuff. So how do you feel like, for our first responders still kind of worried about EVs when they see them crashed, or is it less of a thing?
I think there's still going to be a fear and hesitancy around it just because of a stigma that has been applied to those cars. And a lot of it is just not knowing and not understanding because, for all we know, and some of the horror stories that have been told to first responders is that if you don't know what happens inside of that car during a crash, you don't know where these high voltage lines are running. And what if, God forbid, one of these high voltage lines were to be pierced by a sheet of metal that was damaged in the crash? Now that whole car is electrified. And I think there's a belief that there's far more of those high voltage lines running through a car than there really is.
Yeah. So that makes sense too, though. If, the 12 volts powering the windows and the door locks and the radio, less concern in the event of a crash or safety versus you're running through the whole battery through the car. That makes sense.
I said I would like to hear from friend of the show, Renee, on her feelings about the failure of her 12-volt battery.
I think let's have this from the horse's mouth. She was the one with the car, so
So she's the one that broke it.
she broke it.
I got these fancy bag of sweatpants out of the whole deal. I don't know if you heard that part of the story.
Hey, if you're gonna be sassy, at least put your mouth closer to the mic so we can hear you.
I'm not sassy. It's all facts.
Sassy facts.
Hi, Renee. How are you?
I'm so well. How are you?
Doing well.
You should probably just ask me a simple yet loaded question like, Renee, after having an EV for 2 years, how do you feel about being an EV owner?
So, Renee, after having owned an EV for 2 years, how are you feeling about it?
I was nervous about getting an EV. That was not my choice. Got the EV, Kia 6. I did fall in love with it. It's all good. I love driving the car. I hate driving gas powered vehicles now after driving an EV. They're a lot more smooth, the EV is. They're fast, which is awesome. The best part, of course, is not having to fill up with gas ever. That's amazing. Don't ever want to have to do that again. So there are so many positives. I still think they have a long ways to go for the fact of being, Renee, you've only owned an EV for 2 years. You have like a really good car still. How many miles does it have on it? 31,000 miles. That's not that bad. Why did it have to be towed as this brand new vehicle? Um, I think that's really lame. And so when it's like battery fault, like get it together. What I don't even have words for that. On top of that, this is not an EV fault. I think it's a functionality of our country fault. Like we need more charging stations. We need more charging stations that actually work. And you can't take it on long road trips. You can. It's not as easy. You have to plan. You can't go fast because your husband's yelling at you that you're using up all the charge and you still have X amount of miles to get to before you're at the next charging station. And that's just dumb. Like, well, I have a vehicle that can go so fast and it feels so good and you can't use it. And again, I don't think that's the vehicle's fault. It's actually having more well, we're in Michigan, so maybe that's a problem. Otherwise other places probably have it. So that's dumb. I don't like the fact that okay, we have charging stations sporadically, but now we have to pay to get another contraption because most of the charging stations aren't for whatever Kias, they're all for Teslas still. So that's kind of lame there. So you have to pay for another extra thing, learn all about that. There's a huge learning curve. I don't have time to learn all this stuff about the cars. And if you do and you're into that, that's pretty sweet. But me, I could care less. Just like I want to get in the car and go. And you have to find out all this information about this car to get in the car and go. And then was my other complaint.
Well, I was just hoping that we could get to why you let the 12-volt battery go dead.
I did not let the 12-volt battery go dead. Like what? How, it shouldn't have. So, and that's the other. Like it's so stupid. Why is this car like get it? I don't know. Just get it together. You should. I shouldn't have to have towed this car. Like what if I didn't? What if I was in the middle of a Target parking lot and this happened and you have to get it towed? What if I didn't have any friends and they can't come and get me? Like
Well,
I know you have more to say to that. I get it. I opened myself up for that one.
yeah, you did.
But so that's not bad enough. Okay, fine. I don't even know what's up with the 12 votes, but I keep hearing they're faultier. Okay, fine. Go and get it replaced. Yay, cool. Gonna get the car back. Try to go get the car back and it happens again.
Yeah, I've only had my gas car towed a couple times.
Never don't even because that's another thing he
Wow.
said. Is like it's just like having a gas car towed. I'm like, I've never had a gas car towed.
Oh,
So
I
what
mean,
do you
I have.
like what
Yeah.
I'm 40. I've never had a gas car towed.
You are very privileged.
What you have, Tom?
Oh, yes.
No, you have not. You're lying.
It's right.
I feel like you're both very biased right now.
So Mike has been a part of another vehicle that I used to have where we had to push it to start it. Like on Front Street in
Was
Traverse
it
City.
new?
Yeah.
How old was it?
1979.
It only had like 300,000 miles on it, but it's not the point.
All right, I want to get us back on track here a little bit. We've got an EV6 now that's in the shop. And then what did we learn?
Yes. Oh, so now Brian said you want to take it over. I don't know why it happened, but it happened again, and we still don't have it. It's been a week now. Doesn't work. Tell me that. Riddle me that.
So this is why I made fun of Mike so much at the beginning because I knew this was going to happen.
I would have so much opportunity to get her back. Yeah. Get the collies back. You're going to get it.
All right. So I would say 3 things to get back on track. If you have a 12-volt battery that's dead, you don't have to get it towed. You can do other things. You could go to the store and buy a new 12-volt battery and install it yourself. It's very easy. We also have a jump pack in the car that you can jump the battery with, but I felt like it'd be easier if my wife would just have the car towed because it's under warranty, and that's what you have a warranty for. That's why we bought the Kia EV6 because it has a 10-year, 100,000 miles. So I would say those are 2 options for you if you do have this 12-volt battery failure, which seems to be prevalent. Have a jump pack in the car. It will jump the battery, and it should last. I've never done this before, but it should last till you turn the car off. So it should get you to where you're going. Or go to any parts store and get a 12-volt battery and just change it out yourself. That's possible. So this takes us to the towing of the car. We use the Kia EV roadside app. You'd think they sent someone out that could actually figure out how to tow a car.
I won't be bad, I promise. I do want to say a big shout out for the Kiwi Connect app. They were awesome. They were amazing through every step of the way. That was a shining star.
Okay. So I do get a text from my sister-in-law because it's in her driveway, and the tow truck driver could not figure out how to get the vehicle into neutral because the battery's dead. So I guess he tried to drag it. I guess there's no way you're dragging that car. It's way too heavy. So I get on a speakerphone with him. I was like, dude, don't you have a jump box? And he's like, yeah. I was like, just jump the battery like a normal car and put it in neutral. So that's the second thing is if you have a dead 12-volt battery, tell the tow truck driver just simply to jump it like a normal car and you can put it in neutral. But I know that actually like confuses a lot of people because I read about it all the time or I hear about it. They can't figure out how to tow their car because they can't get it neutral. Have you guys ever had anything like that with any of your EVs or no?
Yeah, I mean, there's I haven't had to do it yet with the Roadster, but there's a bunch of procedures out there just because of the Roadsters. I mean, obviously they're a lot older, kind of specialty thing. Um, so that was one of the first things I did when I got the car is make sure I understood that procedure because it is different. So you don't, make sure you don't mess anything up. You don't have tow drivers who are just trying to yank it, onto their truck, that kind of stuff. So, and I don't want to make this sound silly, but I mean, just like any other car, when you get it, reading the owner's manual and being familiar with how to handle emergency situations is probably a good thing. So, it's gonna be different with an EV, and I know I can see Renee like shaking the head. Um, but
Oh,
having access to that and making sure that you know what to do in a situation where, especially if you're in northern Michigan, you could be out very far away from home, in the middle of nowhere at very cold temperatures. It'd be good to know like what your options are if things go wrong. So
be
being prepared.
and be one of those people that has time to educate yourself.
That's right. Exactly. So I will fast forward. They get it towed to the dealership. The dealership is really good. Text me, hey, we tested your battery. It's dead. Like it failed. We're gonna put a new 12 volt in. Cool. I think it's the end of the day. I tell them I'm gonna be back on Thursday. It's Monday afternoon. So I said, hey, I'll be back Thursday. I'll pick up the car around 6 o'clock at night. Fast forward to Thursday. I texted them, hey, I'm gonna be a little bit late. My flight's delayed. Can you just leave the keys in the car? And they said, well, you know what? Actually, the battery just failed again. 12 volt is dead again. Brand new 12 volt. So this begs the question: what is going on? Is this a 12 volt problem, or Kia also has some recalls on the ICCU, which is the onboard charging unit, and my software was updated last August on it,
Hmm.
but the only option at this point is for them, since it's already been upgraded, the software is to replace it. And the onboard charging unit controls a 12-volt battery charging. And so the theory is one of three. Either the ICCU itself has failed, and there's, like I said, there's a recall on this in South Korea, where ironically the coolant that goes through the ICCU is leaking and actually damaging the ICCU itself.
Hmm.
Hasn't happened in the US yet. There's no recall on it, but if it's happening in South Korea, it's probably happening here. So that's a possibility. Or the tech said that the charging levels in the ICCU are either not charging the 12 volt enough, so it's letting it die. Which I'm skeptical if it's a brand new 12 volt, if that's the case, or it's charging it too much and it's actually blowing up the 12 volt battery. So either way, the next step is, so if you have this problem, I'd highly recommend new 12 volt. If that fixes it, you're good. If your new 12 volt's dead, then it's probably the ICCU.
Hmm.
So I have an ICCU on order. It should be here on Wednesday. But again, I give kudos to Kia dealership. They had a rental car waiting for me at the airport. So when I landed, walked out to a rental car and it was good to go. So I've had relatively minor disruptions besides obviously the cars being at the dealership. So
That's good.
Yeah.
yeah, I know there's other EVs that have had trouble with 12 volts. Mike, you've owned more EVs than any of us. Any thoughts you have?
None. I mean, I guess there's a reason that Tesla moved to one on the Cybertruck, the 48 volt architecture, right? So that's changing things in that realm. Tesla did also move to their lithium ion battery for the auxiliary. So that's something with the newer, vehicles that they have as well. So as the industry is going along, there's a lot more power that's needed from the 12 volt. So these things are not lasting as long as they used to, and that's just been a kind of a well-known fact from many years ago to, I mean, now it's crazy how much computing power is going in these cars, EV or not. And so, they're really need to get away from that as best they can. And I think, Tesla, if you're looking at any company out there, is probably doing the best job of it. And they do give a really good warning when, even on the older cars, when that 12 volts about to go, typically. I've had that happen, and I had a week or so before that died. Now, of course, there's other people that had issues, and they had to get them towed in similar scenarios that Renee is describing, but that wasn't as frequent, if I recall correctly. So, like anything else, there's going to be bugs within industries as things change, and frankly, a lot of it has to do with just the computing power of these new cars. There's so much technology in them. Something's got to give at some point.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, I have obviously had 12-volt batteries replaced in gas cars, and it's the same thing. And I think there's kind of like four main things here. Is I chose to go down the warranty replacement path for the EV6 battery because it's under warranty and it's free. But I could, to your point, replace the battery with a aftermarket lithium ion, which would probably be better, but it's going to cost. Those are like $400 or $500. But I know a lot of people that have done that, just replace the 12 volt.
Hmm.
Or see if there's. In my case, I didn't do any of this, but I never really checked the Kia Connect app or any of that stuff. But I know a lot of people killing their 12-volt batteries by consistently checking the Kia app or other things. Checking, I think Mike, you mentioned this on Teslas, checking the cameras, like all this stuff. Like I never do that, but there's that option. And then the last one is maybe it's this ICCU and it's not the 12-volt batteries. It's actually a bigger problem, which I'm glad we caught. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Gentlemen and Renee, we appreciate you being here, and thanks for talking with us and explaining the downfalls of the 12-volt battery system. I look forward to our next conversation.
Good luck, Renee.
Yeah, hope it's fixed by then.
Thank you for listening to Plug In for More. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, check out the one-stop EV marketplace, evuniverse.com. Until next time.